There are so many expectations and so much conditioning around how we should be feeling at this time of year. It doesn't mean that you should or are supposed to be optimistic. How do you start a new year off well? The first thing really is to honor where you are. The second thing is to identify what might still need closure. The third bit is to find your grounding. The fourth thing that I would suggest to you to start the new year well is it's not like we turned on a light switch and boom, there we are in our new chapter, in our new beginning. If you're feeling pressure and it just feels heavy, then just stop. How do you start a new year off well? Does it include vision boards or not? That's what I'm going to talk to you about today. Welcome to the Unlock Lab. I am so glad you're here. I'm Tosca DiMatteo, and I'm here to talk to you about the human skills of leadership and how to get unstuck in your career. Now, for those of you who might be new, I'm doing this on video, and that's new for me in 2026. So speaking of new beginnings, this is a new start, and I'm so excited that you're here with me on the evolution of this podcast. All right. So today I wanted to talk to you about how to start a new year well. There's all kinds of content around this. I'm super aware, but what I want to share with you today is my experience in how do you start new chapters, new beginnings, and new years in a way that will set you up for success. Whatever that means to you in terms of how you define success. The first thing really, in my opinion, is to honor where you are. How you are feeling as we step into a new year or new chapter is completely valid. There are so many expectations and so much conditioning around how we should be feeling at this time of year. And just because we turned a new calendar year, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden your new chapter has begun. It doesn't mean that you should or are supposed to be optimistic and full of excitement for what's to come. No, it runs the gambit in terms of where you may be at this particular junction of time. For me personally, my new year tends to start more around the spring equinox. Honestly. And I've seen this pattern for myself for many years. So one of the things that you can do is ask yourself, what is my pattern when it comes to the new year? Is January generally tough? Does January tend to bring me excitement and a feeling of newness? These are some of the things you can ask yourself so that you can actually set expectations for yourself that are based on your own patterns. And when you think about the notion of new chapters or new beginnings, the reality is we get to choose when they begin. We have the ability to start over every day, every minute, every second. And so we don't have to put pressure on feeling this sense of a new chapter on a particular day or week or month of a year. So I just want to honor that. Sometimes we can be in new chapters, but it's not like we've fully stepped into it immediately. It's not like we turned on a light switch and boom, there we are in our new chapter, in our new beginning. No, sometimes the process takes a little while, kind of like going from low tide to high tide. That doesn't happen in an instant. It takes hours for that transition. When I think about myself, even in 2025, I felt there was like new beginning, like new era energy as early as August. Then my birthday was September. And then there was, a lot of things going on in the fall. And actually, even still, while I know I'm in a new chapter or a new era, I don't feel like I've really hit that high tide of it all. But I know that I'm in it. So I have to be comfortable with the ebb and flow of even that newness. And sometimes we can be in that newness and then feel like we've maybe regressed or maybe feel like some old habits came into play and we start to question, oh my gosh, have I really moved into that new chapter? The answer is yes, you absolutely have. And that ebb and flow and that back and forth, like that's part of the process of starting new. So I think that's true also in the beginning of the year. One day in January, you may feel like, yeah, here we are, new energy, new stuff going on. And the next minute, you may feel like, what the hell? Everything feels the same. So I want you to, first of all, not judge yourself for however you're feeling and to know that it may change and that's okay. And that's part of the process and it's par for the course. And the other thing I want you to keep in mind, just like I'm saying that there can be these expectations that are placed on us, is be mindful that you don't perpetuate putting expectations onto others either. Maybe your colleagues, maybe your employees are at a low tide right now. Make space to check in with where they are. Perhaps they're surfing on a 40-foot wave. And actually, it would be great to know if that's where they're at, because once you figure out where people are energetically at the start of the year, you can meet them where you are and you can make sure that you're not oozing your expectations out onto others or expecting them to be exactly where you are. As a leader, you have to meet others where they are and go from there. All right. So the second thing about starting new chapters and new years is to identify what might still need closure, because new beginnings can be way more powerful when you've made some intentional actions for closure. So yeah, maybe you were doing some of those things in December, November of 2025, and you were kind of closing out some things, but maybe they're not all closed out. I mean, it can take some time. So for example, for me, I still think I want some closure on some of the habits that I don't want to take with me into 2026. And that includes, for example, for me, less distraction of my cell phone and less filling my time without being intentional. But I know I still need to kind of close the chapter of allowing those things to happen. And I know it's going to be a gradual habit change for me. Another thing that I want closure on, for example, is my P&L for my business for 2025. I want to go in and finish inputting all those numbers. I didn't get to finalize that in December. So that's something I really want to close. Maybe for you, you need to have a conversation with that friend about that thing that's still bugging you and you didn't get a chance to do it at the end of the year or last month or whatever because things got crazy. Maybe you even need to heal some wounds from what happened in 2025. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you're still feeling hurt about that, or maybe you're regretting some decisions you made. Do that work of moving through those things, finding some level of closure so that you can feel that sense of a new beginning. Find out what's left unresolved, not just for yourself, but for your team and other important relationships and folks that you interact with. And identify what role you can play in finding that closure, tying those loose ends so that you can move forward in a new way. The third bit about starting a new chapter or new year is to find your grounding. So whether you have clarity on your direction or your destination, starting a new year means identifying what will support you in not getting blown away in the wind no matter what comes. So we have to ground ourselves so that we can stay calm and firm no matter what may come. Grounding yourself can include things like having rituals or practices. It can be about making choices in the structure or flow of your days or your weeks or your months based on what you need. It could be finding those support systems or identifying those support systems that you're going to use as you start the year. And it can also include things like taking care of your health and physical needs, all part of grounding and being clear with where you are, who you are, and what mental, physical, energetic state that you want to be in. So for me, one of the things I've decided I want to be consistent with as this new year starts is journaling. I've always found journaling to be very grounding. It helps me process like my thoughts and how I'm feeling. So that's one of the grounding practices that I want to use as I start the year. And look, I'm a few days into the year as I'm recording this, and I haven't done that yet, right? I haven't started that practice this year, but I know that that's on my agenda. Another grounding practice, for example, that I want to use as I start this year is getting outside regularly without having a task associated with it. So oftentimes I'm going outside and it's because I'm walking my dog or I've got to run an errand. And I want to help ground myself by just being able to be present and aware of nature. And that's one way that I can ground and stay connected to myself. That's really what it's all about. This tip is about staying connected to yourself, because then it'll be easy to identify what's for you and what's not for you as you start to make choices about how you're moving through your year and what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. The fourth thing that I would suggest to you to start the new year well is to grab your compass. And your compass can look like a whole lot of different things, which I'll talk about, but your compass is directional, right? Like a literal compass isn't about inputting a destination. It's really about identifying the direction in which you're going. And there are many different tools in the toolbox for using a compass as you start your year. Some people use a word of the year as a compass. Some people use an intent or an affirmation. Some folks use goals. And some folks even choose what they don't want as a start to their compass. So it might be a habit that you want to break or a boundary that you want to hold and what you don't want to let in as part of your compass. And the ever popular vision board goes here in this idea of a compass. And let me tell you, I think that vision boards can be a great tool. Now, vision boards are something that I am like, I always have. I don't always have a vision board. In fact, I haven't had a vision board in a really long time. But I will say that when I work with clients who aren't sure what they want, or they want more clarity, or they want to bring it more into their life on a regular basis, I often recommend doing a vision board. And that's because primarily the point of doing a vision board is to get out of your head figuring out what you want, and more so connecting with your heart space about what you desire and letting your body make some choices around the images or the words that excite you without actually worrying about what that puzzle is going to look like. So it's a very heart-centered practice. And oftentimes that's what we need when we're feeling confused or when we don't know what we want. Getting out of our head and getting into our heart space is a great way to do that. And it's funny because I knew I needed to talk about vision boards today because I had a very synchronistic outreach by one of my clients who told me that they did a vision board over the holidays and they just loved what they saw in the thematics of that. And it wasn't what they expected. And that's part of the fun of vision boards, is moving, using visuals, using words, finding patterns that we didn't expect, and seeing things that we didn't expect to see in our desires or in even the ideas that come up through vision boards. For me, look, I think I use vision boards when I'm feeling like called to do it, but it's not something I do at the start of every year. And you can do a vision board. It can be whatever scope that you want. It can be about your entire life. It could be about a slice of your life. It could be about just your career, or it could be just about, the places that you want to travel to, or it could be about a particular relationship and what you want that to be. So you can think about it in many different ways. And the idea is not to feel pressure about this compass piece. Like if you're feeling pressure and it just feels heavy, then just stop and wait and see what comes to you in terms of what would be an effective compass for you to use at this particular moment in time. For me, I've had some people ask me, "Oh, what's your word of the year?" And I don't know. I'm toying with the word worthy for my word of the year, but I'm not really sure. And I'm not putting pressure on oh my God, I've got to figure out my word of the year because that's not the energy that I want to use to discover my path and what I want. So I'm taking it easy and I'm seeing what works for me. Is it going to be an affirmation or maybe I have one or two goals that I'm going to use as my compass for this first month or two and just see where that takes me. And your compass can be as simple as one singular idea. So for example, it might be your compass is that you want to find more ease in your life. So you can ask yourself every day, what can I do today that will help me feel more at ease? And that can be your compass. So I offer this to help you find some ideas. And these are just scratching the surface of ways to find a compass for you to feel like you're not floating in midair or you're not wandering alone in the dark or in the forest without having any sense of anything. Because I think sometimes the new year can feel that way, not just because of the expectations that society puts on us, but also because we've kind of had to stop usually, right, with the holidays and stuff. And then we have to start again. And sometimes that can be a little bit scattered. For myself, I was off for a couple weeks. I'm recording this on the first day back from having some time off. And I'm still finding my footing and finding my grounding. And I know it's going to take me just a little bit to get into a groove. And I'm just giving myself that grace. And I hope you give yourself that grace too. As a leader, starting a new year well requires you to employ your human skills first. And this is about diving into where you are energetically, as well as having a deep understanding of where your team is. So in some recap here, it's about identifying what loose ends you need to tie so that you're making a clean start or perhaps a clean continuation. Find your grounding so that you can show up as your best self. And that means putting yourself first in the equation of your life as a leader, because that is how you are able to show up in the best version of yourself in service of others. Grab the compass for your life, for your career, for your job, for right now. When you have a sense of a compass that you're holding, it will help you make better decisions. It will help you navigate the technical challenges ahead. The human skills that I'm talking about of understanding what's going on with you emotionally, what's going on with your head, understanding that first and foremost will help you find clarity on those next steps that you want to take as this year starts. It's been so great to be with you in this first episode of 2026, episode 81. This first episode that I'm doing that is on video, not just audio. So for those of you who might be listening to it audio, this podcast is now available in video. So I'm just, I'm excited for that new beginning of this, chapter of the podcast. I wish for you a start to the year that is coming from the stillness of your heart and not the busyness of your mind. Finding that solid grounding and that stillness so that you can move from a place of clarity. And if you're not feeling clear, give it some time, give it some space, be with yourself, ignore the noise, because this is how you can find the answers from within. All right. Thank you for joining me here on the Unlock Lab. If you want to learn more about how I can support you and your team in the work of human skills development and better understanding yourself first and foremost, so that you can use those skills in up-leveling and breaking through and getting to the next level in your life and your career, visit CoachTosca.com. That's Coach TOSCA.com. All right. Happy New Year, everyone. And ciao for now. I'll see you next time in the Unlock Lab.